Yeah, this hangout on air is live. Thank you for joining us and welcome to OreAni 2019 End of Winter Season Part 1. So happy to make it another year for anime. So today with us, we get our usual group. Thank you for joining us, Albert.
Hello.
We have Jessica.
Hi.
We have always Nick.
I forgot my water.
And we have Sean.
I'm happy to make it another year in anime as well.
Yeah, hang in there,
Just
Sean.
barely. Yeah, just hanging in there.
We always welcome you to these. What else was there? Oh yeah, and then there's me. Let me just put it up. Hey, yay! Now you saw me. Now I'm back. Okay, so OreAni 2019 with winter season. Been a long time since I've seen so many titles. But can't say anything really stood out 100% for me. But let's go ahead and go through the list and talk about what we want to talk about. Right now we have up first, Kemuri Kusa, Amazon Prime title. And also one of the all CG titles, right?
That it was.
So I see Nick's muted, so maybe I should talk about it first.
Go for it.
So Kemuri Kusa, really fun show. I'll admit the animation was not the best. It seemed like they still had a lot of things to work on, especially near the last few episodes. I felt that there was a lot of sounds going on, but there wasn't a lot of action. So it seemed like they were missing some kind of animation. I don't know if it was just because, what I was watching on was lagging because I was using my tablet, but it seemed like there's a lot of missing animation going on near the end. And also, for some reason, it seemed like you would get to the end of the episode, you would watch the ending credits, and then you would go to the next episode, and there'll be somewhere, and you're like, how did they get to that moment? And it kind of like did this not a big skip, but it did a skip that I'm like, wait, how did we get to? It just kind of irritated me, and I had to go back and see if they had extra footage after the credits, but they didn't. So I'm like, it confused me a little bit in that sense. But other than that, the biggest thing for this show for me was the mystery of what was going on. What kind of world was this? And what was the deal with Wakaba, which was the main guy in that show. So happily, though, all those things were answered. So as far as the show is, I was actually very pleased with how it ended. Instead of this, we're going to cut you off and maybe hope to give you the rest in an OVA or another season. It just actually ended, so I'm happy with that. Like I said, if the animation puts you off, I know it can be hard, but overall, I don't think it was that bad of a story. And I don't really want to say too much to give away the ending, but I would highly recommend it to quite a few people because of just what I enjoyed about it. And but you really have to push yourself hard for the animation, sadly enough.
So
I remember this show not actually looking that bad. It's no Hoseki no Kuni, but as far as like television animation goes, I thought it was kind of okay. Like, does it get worse after the first couple episodes? Because that's all I've seen.
It was definitely worse at the ending, I would say.
Huh.
To me, because like it did the scene where they were fighting, and it seemed like some of the scenes you would hear action stuff, but there wasn't too much going on, and I was like, is my audio desyncing? But it wasn't. So I don't know what was happening there, but I would say for the first half,
Uh-oh.
Oh,
So kind of let me take over here because I do think I was I the only one to watch it all the way, or did Albert? Did you?
I
watch
watched it all the way.
Okay. I just didn't see the full color blob. So, oh yeah, it was.
so do you think it got worse, like production value wise, animation wise?
I think overall it was an improvement from their first work, the first season of
Kimono Friends.
Park. Yeah, Kimono Friends. I was going to call it Jop Buddy Park. Holy crap. But I would say that I was kind of distracted because in the later half of the series, when the story really got going, and there wasn't, it really tried to finish off its story in like the last 2 to 3 episodes. And with the story that it told, I wasn't particularly paying particular attention to the animation, but I think I know what Tank was talking about, because I think there was like a fight scene or two that I was watching where characters were conversing, but their mouth was not, moving. But I like it. It didn't strike me as kind of odd, and I really did enjoy the series for its ending in particular. And I noticed a lot of the parallels that it drew to Kimono Friends. It had a lot of traveling around a rundown world in a bus. There was like a little mascot robot who joined along, and a lot of the characters don't seem like they're human except for one, maybe. Like it just paralleled a lot, and it kind of made me happy that they like got kicked out of Kimono Friends and went on to make this, because I like this a lot better than Kimono Friends. And it kind of does intrigue me to see if this is just going to be their style, and they're going to try to, anytime they do an animation, use this like formula as a premise to shape every story they go on to do, or at least a vast majority for a while. Or I don't know. I'm kind of curious about the studio, just what they're going to go on to do.
So I apologize, guys. I don't know what's going on with the Google Hangouts, but it keeps on saying I'm disconnected even though I have the internet. So if I cut out, just continue on.
Will do.
Will do. Yeah, so I think from my view, I think the last couple of episodes, the action scenes were not very well animated. And I think there's probably 2 reasons for that. One is that Tatsuki himself is not a very good action director. So the layout and where the characters are supposed to be and how they're acting within that scene, it doesn't always quite make sense. Like I don't think he has a good grasp of that. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, I think probably towards the end they maybe rushed, so they decided not to put as much effort into those scenes. So it might be like a twofold problem, right? So I can't say that the production dropped off, but the action scenes, the highlights at the end, were not very well animated. So, as far as the studio, yeah, it's the studio is Yaoyorozu, right? And they've been doing interesting things. Same with what they did with Kimono Friends. Kemurikusa was originally like a net animation. They dropped a couple of short episodes to garner interest. And I actually haven't seen those. But I think it might have been from not from the studio officially, but from Tatsuki's Dojin Circle. So they put a couple of those out, get some interest going, and then they, tell a story. And I was happy with how it all ended. Kemurikusa wrapped itself up and was, enjoyable. And there was definitely a beginning, a middle, and an end. I am not a huge fan of the exposition dump towards the end. I wish they would have done that differently. So just storytelling wise, they did it within the story instead of just a huge explanation, but you know, it's a flashback scene, but it ends up being an exposition dump. So, but yeah, overall, I think it was fine. The animation itself was much better than Kimono Friends, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did enjoy the world that it kind of depicted, and kind of like what you were saying. I am not a big fan of the amnesia-driven stories. I do think that when stories are a lot more linear, they tend to be better. But when I was kind of looking at this one, it might just work for the better, just barely, because like if they kind of stuck that as the hook at the beginning, and then once I look back to how like the first few episodes started out, it would almost seem like, even though it was an exposition dump, they would kind of grab you with this really hookful of a story, and then you kind of have this droll explanation afterwards. So in this respect, I do think it worked a little bit better, but I still like more linear storytelling.
Yeah, agreed.
So, did any of you ever go check I guess they had an OVA done way before this?
No, like I said, I haven't seen it.
Nope.
All right. That might be something I do later on then. But other than that, the only other thing I liked was the ending credits, how they would showcase the characters using the red lines and the green. And then also kind of hinted at something, I think it was like second or to the last episode, where they actually changed how the characters disappeared and everything. So it kind of told you a little bit, kind of giving you like a small little spoiler, but overall it wasn't that bad. But it was kind of fun how they did that with the ending, I thought. So next up, let's go ahead and talk to the next title here, which is Neverland, with Peter Pan and Tinkerbell. Never mind. This was a show I really wanted to like. And I was hoping by doing a binge watching of it, it would play out better, but it didn't for me. So, Sean, why did you like it, or?
It's a given that I like it or something.
Well, you put a 5 on it, so.
That just means I want to talk about it the most out of all of 2 shows that I've seen. I mean, I always find shows that have positives and negatives more interesting to talk about than like something that's just completely good, you know, like basically Mob Psycho 102. But so Neverland has its upsides and downsides. I like the moments that will stick with me are there's really only a couple. You know, it's the moments that really evoke horror, and you know, you're on the edge of your seat as you're watching it. And those would be like the reveal in episode 1, and somewhere around like episode 6 or 7 or something, they sneak into Mama's room, and like that was also hair raising in a similar way. And you can see how the show accommodates that with visual storytelling, because they start doing more of the uncanny 3D camera movement shots and things like that, like when they want to evoke that like high tension horror feeling. And so they're doing it like very effectively. I felt like the bulk of the rest of the show was kind of cheap, you know, sometimes creative, sometimes cheap. Like there were moments when I knew they were going to do the thing where, you know, the antagonist says, haha, you thought you would outsmart me, but I knew your plan the whole time. And then they have this alternation of like, I'm making an evil face, and I'm making a horrified face, and I'm making an evil face, and I'm making a horrified face. I knew of your plans. You can't defeat me. And, you know, it gets a little too like Code Geass Death Note-y at times. But I don't know. I guess that was also just kind of baked into my expectations, because, you know, so it's ultimately a shonen manga adaptation. But even as something like that, I thought it was like pretty entertaining almost all the time, and I thought it ended well. And it has a nice cliffhanger, or I guess a nice lead in to the next arc of the adventure, and I kind of want to see where that goes. So if they make more of it, I'll watch it.
Well, they've already announced the season 2, so yeah.
Okay, great. As a show from Cloverworks, which is kind of like it's like one of the Aniplex studios, so they kind of came from A1.
A1, yeah.
And like the last big A1 thing was Darling in the Franxx, and you can kind of see some of that here. Like really nice character drawings and like drama animation at times. But I feel like this is a much better show than Darling in the Franxx, because that is a kind of a low benchmark. But there were some nice things about Darling in the Franxx. That's kind of all I can think to say about it right now.
What about you, Jessica?
This was one of my favorite shows of the season, and pretty much for all of the reasons that Sean said, is that it really captures that horror fear element and sort of a suspense thriller in a way, where these kids are definitely the underdogs and everything is on the line, everything's at risk. And I like how they had the group dynamic where Ray is the ultimate pragmatist, where he's pretty much believes that only the older kids can survive because they don't know what's out there, and that trying to bring the younger kids along is folly and it's going to get everybody killed. And that makes sense on a practical level, but Emma is the heart and soul of the group, and she's more along the lines of everyone comes or we're not doing this at all or nothing sort of a mentality. And just how those characters play off each other and then they play off against Mom is really neat to see. Plus, I like the artwork in the anime better than in the manga. The anime tends to soften a lot of the character designs and make them, to me anyway, more pleasing to look at. But yeah, I was on the edge of my seat for pretty much the whole latter half. It's really good, and I highly recommend it.
Yeah, I agree. I did enjoy it. I read the manga, like the first volume, maybe the first 2 volumes, before I watched the anime. So the second half, I think second half or the last 2/3 of it was all surprise because I hadn't read ahead, and I thought they did a pretty good job wrapping it up for the season, and ended on a very high note. The production values, I think, stayed pretty high throughout. The animation's nice, character designs are nice. I should mention that actually I have the 3 main protagonists here: Emma, Norman, and Ray. And I think I posted this elsewhere, but that's the voice actors for all 3. So as typical of in Japan, in the voice acting, prepubescent boys are often voiced by females, because it's hard to get actual kids. This isn't a Disney thing, so you have women voicing boys. Most famous, of course, is Goku, who, voice actor doesn't change even though he grew up. That's hilarious. But anyway, the other thing I want to share is that the artist for the manga is Demizu Posca. And wait, did I not share that? Share. There we go. So that's the artist Twitter account. She is prolific on Pixiv and on Twitter. Like basically every day there is a new post, if not multiple.
Oh, it's the person with that 3D vampire avatar. I didn't realize.
Yeah.
This was that person.
So, for the most part, she does retweet things, but a lot of it is her work. And then because of the anime, she's been posting a lot of the anime stuff too. So if you like her art, check her Twitter account, I would say. So a lot of really nice artwork and behind the scenes for the anime.
See, it might be a little bit late to kind of add in my impression to it at this point, but I was going to say overall, I was pleased with the series. I definitely liked its start and its end. The middle got a little kind of iffy for me, not to the point where I would drop it, but in respect to how it began and how it ended, it's just kind of the glaring, elephant in the room, so to speak. But I can't say that I'm like motivated to wanting to like own this one right away. It didn't hit too many of this, like just a lot of the special requisites that I look for. That's intrinsic to me. Not saying it did anything wrong. Just while I enjoyed it, it's just one of the stories that I'm glad that I've watched, but I don't know. Like I'm just not like a huge fan for it at the same time.
So I quit right at the middle of it. I wouldn't say quit, but I just decided I didn't want to finish it right away for the hangout. And it was mostly because of this kind of how they were doing these twists and turns, and just I thought it was just getting overdone. I was just like, ugh, really? Seriously? Now this guy's this way? And it just kept on changing to me, and I don't know. It was bugging me a little bit. So would you guys recommend I push through and get to the ending, or?
How far in did you watch?
So I know I passed episode 6. I think I went to 7, because I remember them sneaking into the mama's room, like he said, that secret room. So I know I got to the halfway point, but
I would kind of say just go for it, and just so we can kind of hear your impression of it. Based off what I said, though, I just don't think it's going to be something you're going to overly enjoy. But at the same time, with being that close, I think the ending does justify just pushing through in respect to how far you say you got. Just my kind of 2 cents.
Not a lot really changes. So if you're 6 episodes in and you don't like the show, I don't think that it's going to change drastically from what you've seen.
it's like
I really like it, so I think you should finish it. But at the same time, if you don't like it already, I don't see how another 2.5, 3 hours of your life is necessarily worth it.
Like, I'm not saying that I hated it. It's just that there's just some points that that's kind of like I really did enjoy and like the vibe of like some moments where it was really tense, and it got me there. I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? But like I said, I just hated this twists and turns. Like, I'm really the bad guy. Oh no, he's not really the bad guy because he's doing type of thing.
Okay.
It just got, that kind of part was irritating me. I was like, oh, come on.
In that case, I think you might enjoy the latter half of it then.
Yeah, there is a tad less of that.
Mm-hmm.
So,
There's certainly the most of that. Like if you got to I don't know. It's hard to describe the reveal without describing the reveal.
But that's why I'm saying it's kind of worth it, though. Like at the same time.
So I guess I'll try it out again. But like I said, it wasn't like I hated it. It's just that I was like, I'd rather finish some other stuff before I get to this hangout.
I understand.
So,
do any of you guys get the vibe that mom or mama is perhaps a passive serial killer, just in the way that she collects the memorabilia of all the kids that get processed?
Yeah, hard to say.
I wouldn't like say serial killer because it's not as though it's kind of weird when you consider the involvement, but to me it's like if it's not directly by your hand, then are you the killer?
Mm-hmm.
I think when I think about her situation, it's more like this is the only life that she can actually have in this world. So it kind of like because it seems like she was born in the system,
Mm-hmm.
and there was never a way out of the system. So maybe her thinking is, I'm just going to make the most of it, and I'm going to raise these kids, which has some upsides, even though the endings are always tragic. But I can get a little bit of joy out of doing this thing. I don't know. There are some parts of her that seem kind of psychotic and creepy.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much agency she has in that. Like how much does she actually like her job? I guess I don't know. And I kind of wonder where that character will go past the ending.
She's one of the more fascinating characters. There's a lot going on along behind the scenes.
All right, thank you guys. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which is another Amazon Prime title. Do. I had to make sure how many rows there were. I'm sorry. Dororo, which I only saw the first few episodes, but partially because I was doing other things at the time. But it really caught my interest, and I'm going to try to finish it next week. But I guess I might as well hear what you guys have to say about it.
Well, of note, Amazon's finally added a skip intro button, but they don't necessarily know where to put it because sometimes the episode starts with a little bit and then it plays the opening song. And so the skip intro button is present during the little opening part. But you know what? I'll take what I can freaking get because it's been a few years and they finally got that button. So whatever. But this is my very favorite of the season. Between this and Promised Neverland were my two that I most look forward to seeing every week. And I can't recommend it enough. It's kind of a dark musing on human nature and an anti-war type anime within the context of the Sengoku era. And oh gosh, it's just so good. I don't want to give any spoilers just in case you haven't seen that far. So I'll just say it's really awesome. You need to watch it.
You should mention that it's a two-core show, which I was I was surprised towards the end. I'm like, I don't see how they're going to wrap this up. And then it's like 2 cores. So
yeah, me too. I thought the same thing. Is that we're slowly getting closer to episode 12, and I'm just there's no way they can wrap this up in a handful of episodes. And then it was just announced that it's a 24, right?
I believe so, because they're taking a week off in the middle. So this week there is no Dororo. It'll be next week. But yeah, so this has been adapted before. It is based on a manga by the god of manga, Osamu Tezuka. And the old TV series looks like that. It was in black and white. And, if you tried to watch it now, I think you would have a very hard time because it was okay for the time, but not that great. The story itself is, I think I said this in the when we were doing previews for the season, that there was some popularity among manga artists drawing yokai and monsters and such. And Osamu Tezuka had been doing a lot of sci-fi and other things, and he was like, well, I can do that too, and this is what came out of it. So it's sometimes like thematically not as cohesive as it could be, and there are tonal shifts like in the manga, and I was curious to see how they would adapt it this time around. And I think that they did a great job with the character designs. The animation is, by Madhouse, so it's top of the line for animation, especially action scenes. They have a gorgeous OP. The Sakuga and the OP, I think, is great. I think that I'm not a big fan of the song itself, but the OP scroll itself is fantastic. And so for all of that to change from the original manga that you see here, I think they did a good job. And there's no spoilers. This is right at the beginning, right? That is Hyakimaru as a baby. Much of his body parts were taken by the Kishin. I don't know what they said, what it's subtitled as, but they're monsters of the highest order, nearly godlike. And instead of the original 48 that was in the manga, they pared it down to 12. But there are other monsters, Ayakashi, yokai, that he fights, throughout the series. But there is also a lot about a lot of morally ambiguous, questionable things that happen, and it's a really interesting look at human nature, I would say. So I'm glad that they're going to, have 2 cores. I can tell you that it's starting to deviate quite a bit from the manga. So, at this point, we're in unknown territory, I would say. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to adapt and finish the second core. But I think that the director is really, has done a spectacular job. And then along with the series composer, right? I believe, hold on, let me double check. I believe it is come on. I believe the series composer is a woman, and she has brought a lot of more 3-dimensional characters. So a lot of the characters were in the original. For example, the adopted father, right, that takes Hyakimaru in. He happens to, in the manga, he just happens to be a doctor who, picks up this weird thing and then suddenly has the ability to create, this is medieval Japan, right? But suddenly he's able to create these fantastic prosthetics for Hyakimaru. But in the anime, it's a much more well-rounded character, and he has done some bad things, and he is trying to atone for them, and that makes it just much more human, and also explains a lot more about his, background and his ability to create these prosthetics. So many of the other characters also get, a makeover, and both the good characters and the bad characters, meaning story-wise, they all are much more well-rounded, and you can see their viewpoints, and that it's not a great world to live in. They do their best, and sometimes they end up doing very bad things. So I have really enjoyed it. It's probably, the top 3 for this season. So yeah, I highly recommend it to anyone that would watch it, and to actually, pay attention, because there's a lot in there.
There's so much going on, so many characters that you think at first, oh, they're just a one note, and then it turns out that no, once you start peeling back the layer of the onion, there's a lot happening with them. Probably the strongest arc so far is the one where Hyakimaru and Dororo meet a young woman who's taken in a bunch of war orphans, and they're just trying to get by. And it really shows the effects of war on the peasants and the helpless, and how that affects them quite a bit, in not necessarily in good ways, and what people are doing to try to just eat. And another really strong emotional arc was when you learn about Dororo's past. That brought me to tears. It was incredibly powerful, and I don't want to give too many details because, again, it's best if you just go in with a blank slate and experience it on your own. Of the lengths that people will go to protect themselves and their children and their families and way of life. It's really good. It's so much more than just this guy killing demons. It's really a masterpiece. Oh, and of note, those demons are drawn by hand. So you're not going to get a whole lot of CGI. There's some that are in certain shots, but it's not that obvious.
Yeah, it's subtle, you know. So, Sean, if you get a chance, I would recommend it to you. You could look at who's on the staff, but the director is Kazuhiro Furuhashi.
Yep.
So he's done, you know, a lot of things and is very competent. You know, he's done Hunter x Hunter. He did the Meiji arc for Rurouni Kenshin. More recently, he also did Binchotan.
Huh. I didn't know that.
Yeah. He was the director for Gundam Unicorn.
Right.
So there's that, and then the series composer is Yasuko Kobayashi. She does both anime and tokusatsu. So she's done a bunch of tokusatsu stuff, including the remake of Kamen Rider Amazon. But anime-wise, she did Claymore, Shakugan no Shana, and looks like Attack on Titan. So, yeah, I think she's been doing a great job on this series. So I highly recommend it. Okay.
Nice.
What?
Sounds like a great show. Just wish it wasn't on Amazon Prime.
Same here.
It's funny. I've been playing
Let's go ahead
Sekiro.
and move on to the next title.
What was that, Sean?
I've been playing Sekiro, you know, which is the blockbuster action video game, Sengoku period. It has you're a ninja man who's missing an arm, but he can attach prosthetic ninja attachments, you know, to his like magical fake arm. So yeah, it's fun seeing. It's fun hearing about Dororo, and you know, seems to share some traits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like wasn't that from like the Dark Souls studio or no?
Yeah, it's the latest
Yeah.
Dark Souls style game.
Okay, what's our next? Do we lose Tank?
Perhaps I.
Yeah.
I guess the authorities finally caught up to him. I was wondering how he's getting all those Chinese bootlegs.
Yeah. Well, the next title is supposed to be Maho Shoujo
Yay.
Tokusen Asuka.
I'm back.
So maybe, okay, you've got the photo or image
Yeah,
up.
go for it.
Yeah. I dropped it, so if Nick or Jessica want to talk about it.
I have one episode to go or two. I'm not sure. This is one that I kind of stuck through it because I liked the idea. But the execution of the idea is not the greatest. So it's pretty much, if I had to sum it up in a phrase, it'd be magical girls with PTSD. So that's pretty cool. That gives us a lot of material to work with. But then it kind of gets into this weirdish fan servicey fetishy thing.
Only during torture scenes. Gosh.
Yeah, and at first it's like, okay, so War Nurse says that she's going to be the torturer because she wants to protect Asuka from having to do the thing. So, okay, that's kind of a neat idea.
I mean, she's more fit for the role, too.
The torture scene, I wish I'd screen capped it because, oh my gosh. When you have a spell in your arsenal called magical spanking.
What?
Yeah. I wish I'd made that up.
Yeah, the torture scenes are kind of the thing that break the show for most people, in my opinion. To just extrapolate a little bit onto Jessica's premise, most of the series tried to explain the PTSD as they just got done fighting a war. But it seems that because of that war, the Earth has forever changed, because now there are ties to the spiritual world where you have like black market level transactions happening. And though humanity has won the war with the help of the spirit realm by making the magical girls, it's now kind of forever changed how combat kind of happens. And we use illegally obtained spirit world demonic magic to facilitate kind of terrorism, or just more like, you know, like a guerrilla warfare. Just a lot of those concepts it's like the illegal guns. It's like guns are illegal, but we get guns anyway. And the magical girls are pretty much going to be needed like from now forever on to continue to combat that. So the story that we had at first was the war is over, I want to resume my life as normal, and oh, I got pulled back in. Like this isn't going to end that easily. So that's kind of more the premise. With the torture scenes are kind of the one thing that kind of, like I said, that just kind of make it hard to recommend to just about anybody, because that premise to me was really intriguing, kind of like what Jessica said. Just stuff happened, yo. Like, I don't mind it, but I couldn't, you know, tell a whole bunch of, like, I wouldn't recommend it to my cousins kind of a thing.
Right.
Interesting. I actually dropped the show and was hoping to hear about it later on and hope that people would be saying this show's great. It's actually surprising, but now I'm kind of happy that I didn't waste too much time on this.
Well, those scenes are few and far between, and I'm not saying it makes the show great or bad. It's just, it is, you know, unique to the show. And if you are the type of person who really doesn't like that in the anime you watch, then that is a reason to avoid this series. I do think it was quite intriguing despite that. And although the core has finished, and I don't think there's a promise of a season 2, it's just kind of like that, you know, does the story need to continue in anime form, or are you enough of a fan that you're going to transition over to the manga?
So, Nick, we got a comment on YouTube about when you made the comment about you wouldn't recommend this to your cousin, that they're saying your cousin should be more open-minded.
Well, you know, it was kind of funny because I heard a similar comment to that about there was kind of a meme floating around on the internet for a little while where I just went to see that second Fate movie, and I'm sure glad I didn't bring my mother along. Because, you know, the second Fate movie was kind of...
Nice.
Yeah, that movie was strange. We'll talk about that later. Is there anything else to add about Asuka?
No, I was just curious. Nick, you finished it. Is it, I mean, I'm 10-ish episodes in. Is it worth watching the other 2, or is it kind of a wash now?
It's honestly going to end at kind of a cliffhanger, because the main story that was introduced will not be resolved by the end. That's why I think there will be a possible season 2, because they'll probably want to at least finish that. Because, you know, they did introduce those characters who are acting as like the magic heavy antagonist, and they get, like, in the last episode or two, they get a piece of their plan, and then you get Asuka just kind of giving you that premise I gave, where, you know, I wanted to be out of this, but it seems we'll be forever needed anyway, and that's kind of where it ends. So there is a battle. There is a second torture scene that you probably want to avoid if you haven't seen that one too. It involves a character with a prosthetic leg, just to throw that out there in case you may or may not have seen it. That one's probably worse. So.
Oh, no, I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah. But, I mean, I finished it because, like I said, I enjoyed the premise of how the military, you know, had to adapt, like, you know, high school aged kids into their force and deal with it because, you know, not grown men could be magical girls. But
only high school men that are zombies.
That are zombies. Oh, of all the variations we could go on about. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't rated the highest, and as I said, if you can look past that aspect of it, it's somewhat decent in its premise alone, but you kind of have to look at it with the characters who enjoy being able to hurt others. While torture's not an overall, like, it's not super core to the series, it is there in the background, so there are some messed up people in this show.
All right. So let's go ahead and move on to the next title. Jessica, it was nice having you here.
Yeah, it was fun. See y'all later.
I don't know if you saw my chat,
Yep.
but we'll save that other title for next time.
Cool. All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Let's go to the night of the title, which is a Boogie Pop OreAni.
Yeah, and like it's weird because like when it doesn't really subtitle its own title, but if you like look it up, it's Boogie Pop Never Laughs, or, you know, doesn't laugh. I don't know what the official title is going to be, but actually I think that's the literal translation, because now that I think of it, it's whenever I saw the intro roll in, it's like Boogie Pop and Others was kind of like is that literally going to be the title? Boogie Pop and Others?
I remember us talking about this at the beginning of the season, but I couldn't remember what anyone said about it.
I ended up really liking it because there was like 2 weekends where it had double features, or like it either released 2 episodes on 2 separate weekends, or 4 episodes just dropped all in one weekend, and yet I stayed current with it more so than other shows. There was a lot about it that I liked, and it's a title that I'll admit I'm probably going to buy when it becomes available to me, not to try to sell its greatness or anything, because that's not what I'm proclaiming, but it really didn't introduce its premise. And I have to say, I'm going off not knowing what the prior work was. This was my first introduction to anything Boogie Pop. So I forgot if Sean said he watched the original or not.
I think I watched most of it back in the day. It is a very strange, like extremely stylized adaptation that's like hard to follow. It's hard to watch.
So while it didn't introduce its premise very clearly, and you're more, the viewpoint is mostly follows a pretty core high school cast, because there is the Grim Reaper or Boogie Pop character who is pretty much a protagonist and is usually shown as possessing a specific person every time. And they go on to explain the entity that is Boogie Pop only appears when a world-threatening scenario like plot is underway, and like the world is literally in danger. Not necessarily for humans, but, you know, somehow the world is in danger. But Boogie Pop never appears in such a way where they just know what the issue is. So they kind of have to watch the city learn facts and prevent the world end scenario. And that's only one of the plots here. What you come to find out is there's an organization that's working in the background, and people are waking up to not like ESP psychic powers, but like extra perceptionary powers alone, not necessarily like I can use telekinesis. While there are like a few characters who are an exception to that, it's mostly like a character can look at somebody and glean and know a lot more about that person than they should, or know about their problems when they should not. There's a lot to that perception. And there's this organization who keeps tabs on such individuals because they see them as the next link or the next rung of evolution, like before the outbreak of X-Men, or in the various anime plots where espers came to power because like in Mob Psycho, there are just characters who are awakening up to those powers and they can literally threaten the world. So this organization is quelling said threats as they learn about them, but at the same time working towards artificially evolving the human race through experimentation. So it's like, as long as they can control what the human race becomes, it's okay by their book. And it was just kind of so interesting to see all these various kind of plot lines move about, because on one hand you have a character who's just kind of safeguarding the world, and then you have this organization that is like, while experimenting with the human race, also quelling the rising of the X-Men. And to me, it was just a really interesting, ride. I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Not saying that the animation was the greatest or anything like that. There are a few action scenes, they're all right. But yeah. So it takes you like a couple episodes to basically be introduced to the later plot line I described. And, yeah. So I don't know how well that correlates to the first work, if that sounded any kind of familiar to Sean or not, but...
From what I've seen of this Boogie Pop, which was actually just like the episode 1+2 like double length premiere, that it covers the same stuff as like the premiere of the old Boogie Pop series adaptation, but in terms of presentation, they're so different.
Oh, and I forgot that I was going to mention that the animation later, Awakened a Sense, I believe it's probably by the same studio. I usually do. Oh, well, it was by Madhouse, but I think Madhouse did this one. Do you know if Madhouse did Parasite the Maximum? Because like a lot of that art style really being really prevalent in the later series.
They did Parasite. I'm not sure how much staff crossover there is, but this director did. I'm not sure where that anime ACCA Aka or whatever, where that was made, but he also did One Punch Man at Madhouse. So there were some Sakuga expectations for this, but I don't know. I thought it, at least the premiere episodes look kind of lame. And in the background, I've heard that like there were production issues because the author didn't like the character designs, and they had to change the character designs like kind of mid-production, which sounds really terrible.
That is not good.
Now it kind of showed in the premiere. Like the character designs didn't look very good. And on top of that, the animation wasn't all that. So I don't know.
While I wouldn't say it's an anime that dives into analyzing the current, psychology of the human race, I would say that there was a lot of psychological overtones in it, because it delved into the motivations of the individuals, of the organization, of the person, threatening the world, of a lot of the stuff. So you did have almost like not to correlate it to, but just to kind of, reference for relevance. It had a lot of dialogue. While there was some action scenes, it was very dialogue driven, and I don't think the show is presenting you a moral compass so much as just trying to be an entertaining piece on that fringe of like, I don't know, like an organization who's like policing the world with like no authority over it, and how that affects the individuals who become targets of there's a lot going on. I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. but not that I'm saying, go check it out, everybody. You'd kind of have to be sold into the various concepts that I've been saying. Like, I know a lot of people are like, well, that I don't want to be overselling it to the point where I'm saying it's more cool than it is, but I do tend to like shows where a character dialogues about how they look at the world and how they want to solve the world, and how other characters will rise up, and you can't do that. But
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like my expectations were set by the first adaptation, which is more of this psychological horror thing. It's like very like Serial Experiments in Lane era like style piece. That was of the era. But this is so cut and dried and it's like so dialogue driven, which is like, if you want horror, it can't be all dialogue. And there were times that just seemed really strange. Like, I don't know. I didn't get past the premiere, but I felt like the show lacked a certain edge. Like it needed some sort of edge to.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that.
To be more than like a series of dialogues about things, about 90s isms.
Yeah. That's why I kind of correlate it to Parasite, because while the action and some of the characters kind of went the route of the protagonist of Parasite only ever tried to tackle, what happened if parasites came down to Earth and they wanted to take over the heads of people, and they wanted to Earth up the human race, and all parasites on Earth are just parasites. And you had the one character who kind of went wrong and started, somewhat defending the world. But with Boogie Pop, you have arc-ish stories that tend to last 3 to 4 episodes before it just starts up a different arc. And it was nice to have that variety. It wasn't just the overall theme was from start to finish the same, but that's what entertained me the most. But I don't know. I don't know who I would recommend this for. I just know that it surprised me. I didn't expect to like it as much as I did while I was sticking with it. And yeah. No.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I'm kind of changing the subject, but like now that you say that, I'm trying to think of shows that have that kind of structure, and I can't think of very many. Where each arc lasts like 3 episodes or so.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the only thing that comes to mind immediately for me is Hoseki no Kuni, Land of the Lustrous.
I mean, kind of, but like, overall, the theme of the threat was drastically different. Whereas, well, I guess that's somewhat true, where the organization's always in the background, and it's not always driven by the protagonist. There are times when you follow alternative characters, hence the and others in the title. And it really breaks away from just following, the school kids who Boogie Pop is among them. And
would you say kind of like Darker Than Black? How it had 2-episode themes?
If I've seen it, I could correlate it. But
you're right. Yeah, that show had that structure too.
I mean, perhaps.
Darker Than Black had like different stories, but the main character kind of appeared in each one, even though he wasn't the focus of it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Possibly. It sounds like it could be a pretty good generalized correlation, but if I actually did check out Darker Than Black, I could comment more, but I didn't.
I can only speak from what I vaguely remember of the anime. That Boogie Pop is kind of like Batman or something.
Mm-hmm. Kind of.
Where, she appears at the end or something, or she's kind of like a presence in the background.
Yep.
I don't know. I guess by Batman, I guess I'm talking about the animated series that I grew up with.
But yeah, that was mostly it. That's all I could really say for it, and it just surprised me. I stuck with it for that weird, like, fringe society kind of thing it started up with, and then as I was introduced to the story, I just couldn't get away from it. And I do want to recommend it to certain like peers of mine to see how they react to it. But it's more people into kind of that sci-fi genre-esque stuff. So I don't know if I got anyone to check it out yet, but I was really looking forward to hearing from some people.
You know what, Nick? I'll check it out.
Okay, you can if you want. You wouldn't necessarily be one of my candidates, but
I was actually very interested in seeing what it might have been about, so I might as well just do it. Get myself to watch another show.
But just it is slightly longer with like 18 episodes for its first core.
No problem. So let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which I kind of already forgot. Oh, yeah. Mob Psycho 100%. Oh, no, 102. Which is actually, the last episode's tomorrow, right?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I watched this week's episode yet. So, I don't know.
Should we hold off on this for next week then? Maybe?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows how it's gonna end, so it doesn't really matter that much. So I'm not going to take this opportunity to extol the virtues of Mob Psycho for the nth time. It's like it's good. It's really good. I think what differentiates this season, which I actually like more than the original season, is that like the first season had. I felt like a good part of that season was kind of taken up by a tournament arc that sort of began maybe around episode 7 or 8, and it just keeps going and going. Where this one also has that, like a tournament arc-ish thing. It's not really a tournament, but I just sort of say that because they bring in like all these characters that are like extremely peripheral, and they have all these set-piece battles between all these characters, and the whole time I'm like, can we just get back to Mob? Because that's not what the rest of Mob is. So fortunately, that doesn't really happen until like episode 10 or so, where they have their big climactic arc with everybody with superpowers fighting each other, huge explosions. So instead, a lot of Mob is like investigating the supernatural, investigating urban legends and stuff, from the perspective of this like extremely powerful boy psychic. So there's also this sort of school drama backdrop to everything that's happening. And this season had some pretty good arcs. Like there was I enjoyed the episode that introduced this, like it was about the moral dilemma of exorcising spirits, because he comes across this family of ghosts who have this sort of like tragic backstory, and they don't want to pass on just yet. And yet, he's working as this professional psychic, and he has clients that want those ghosts to be gone. So, like, and that sort of triggers this moral dilemma within Mob, and he's not sure what to do. And I really like that episode. Mm-hmm. There was another one about the relationship between Reagan Sensei and Mob himself.
I love that one.
Yeah, so that was a two-parter. I'm not exactly sure how that ended. Like I was actually kind of confused by the ending. But in any case, like it was pretty good. So I kind of like Mob having more of those, more drama, and less of the super powered big explosion battle stuff, even though it is full of like really nice animation. Like there's really nothing like this. There's nothing like Mob on the air, and there probably won't be until, I don't know, Mob Psycho 103 or something. Like it's unparalleled in TV animation.
Yeah, it's pretty insane. So the screen caps I've got up is from episode 5. So they had a mega battle in the middle arc. But like Sean said, the joy in watching this is to see like Mob actually change and grow as a person, and it's really quite interesting. Like there was a 2-episode arc on Reagan, right? And that was unexpected, and also it was thoroughly character driven, right? So I think that from watching, the first season, watching the second season, the amount of change that Mob undergoes and is growing up is actually I don't know, it's really heartwarming at times how much he's actually grown up. So he's he's in middle school, but yeah, this is the time where he has to decide what he wants to work towards, and he is accomplishing all of that. And because of that and the friendships that he makes through the club, the muscle club, right, through his interactions with Reagan, with Ekubo, and his family, he undergoes tremendous change. So I can't recommend this enough. And it's been fantastic. So hopefully there will be a season 3 to wrap up the entire storyline. But we will have to see. But just by popularity and by the amount of great feedback and the accolades thrown on the series, both season 1 and season 2, I would think that eventually there will be a season 3, and hopefully all the staff will return to complete it.
Yeah, I guess on like Mob's character development, that is something that like significantly differentiates him and this show from like One Punch Man, because originally you look at Mob and you sort of see him as analogous to One Punch Man, where he's this like eternal punchline, to haughty villains and stuff. But yeah, the show and the character has far exceeded that, and Mob has become more of a 3-dimensional character, and as such, he's a lot more interesting to watch.
Yeah, he's much more complex, and I know a little bit about the third arc, but third arc meaning what would be in the third season. But you could already see that in the episodes, the earlier episodes, especially like episodes 4, 5, and 6, I think, for this season, where he meets, another psychic that is tremendously powerful, and he sees himself going down that road as a bad person, right? And Mob is resisting all that because he is fundamentally a good kid. So yeah, I really enjoyed his character growth this season.
Yeah, that's to further agree with you guys. I actually kind of had a Steins Gate effect with this one, where I don't care as much about the first season as I really enjoyed the second season. To me, the first season was just like pure, not exposition, but kind of. It established the character of Mob, but a lot of the conflicts in it weren't like what was in season 2, where they didn't really establish his character or help him grow as a person. They were just it was just to establish the world that was Mob. And I don't know how I feel about series like that, where I'd like almost rather buy season 2 and just kind of go, season 1 wasn't, like, not to say it wasn't so special. It is necessary, and knowing what happened in season 2, it's just, I like 2 so much better that it overshadows 1. I don't know.
Great show. That's all I have to say. You guys pretty much covered a lot of the greatness of it. I can't wait for the last episode.
Mhm.
Well, the action scenes were great, and I think I even saw that someone had posted something about one of the animators saying that one of those fight scenes was one of the hardest things he's ever had to animate. I wish I could find that. I think it was on Google Plus, but I was looking at it during work, so I didn't get to read it all. But those action scenes were really interesting. But while they were a treat, I think just Mob's growth is what made it really fun. That Reagan episode was awesome too. Everyone's going to be talking about that for years, I swear. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, or does anyone have anything else to say?
I didn't quite get the ending of the. I mean, it just if you can allow me to spoil it, but does Reagan have powers, or like what happened at that press conference? I didn't quite understand it.
I believe it was Mob, because
Mob.
like
Yeah.
even the girls showed a picture that it showed that he was walking through the crowds during one of the scenes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but Reagan himself, there's some residual effect from what happened in season 1 because he actually can see Ekubo now, right? Whereas previously he was completely oblivious. So I think if it's like a very, very low level, then he can kind of sense them, right? Or if they will it, if like Ekubo, says it's okay for him to recognize me, then he can see spirits.
Yeah, I was about to say I don't know how truly residual it is because like Ekubo is like the golden exception there, where
Yeah,
or like in no other circumstance does that bleed over at all. So
but he doesn't have TK or anything spectacular like that.
So let's go ahead and move on to the next title.
God damn.
Speaking of great anime,
Waten.
God.
Yay! This show is so great. So last season we had this Kuzu Maid show,
Uzame.
which was this lady that was super into little girls, and it just was so over the top that a lot of people loved it because of just how ridiculous it was. This one kind of goes a different route. We got a
does it?
Yes, it does slightly. You got this one, I guess, a college girl that's has a lot of anxiety going out in groups and stuff, but she does go out because she does go to college. So she's not really a hikikomori, even though it seems like that at the beginning. But she just absolutely falls in love with this little girl that happens to be a classmate of her little sister, and wants to dress her up and take pictures, and it does get kind of creepy. But I would say it was a little more enjoyable than Kuzumaid. And and if you thought Onisama and what do you call that show? Mahoka was overdone. This show has Maya Nest said so much by that little sister that you can actually find YouTube episodes out there. Just how many times does she say this episode, and it counts it all and plays it all in the compilation, which I have watched. But I don't know. I really enjoyed this show for some odd reason, and you could see a lot of the characters changed a lot from the beginning by the end, and so even though it was a lot of rehashing of a lot of just silliness, there was some changes in the characters and how they started interacting with each other, how they started changing, and I don't know, just it's one of the another shows of just girls doing cute things or trying to do cute things with this creepy old lady around. But I like it. I can't. I don't know why no one else has seen it. Seems like Albert, you were kind of watching it.
No, I watched I watched episode 1 and I was done because I already said that in the preview when we have previews, but I just couldn't take another one of these story, because I mean, it's Yuri / comedy / whatever, and oh, isn't that funny that this grown woman is attracted to a little girl, and she, wants the little girl to cosplay, so she's gonna give her sweets. Yeah, I mean, the animation for episode 1 was nice. Doga Kobo did the animation, and yeah, it is funny. But once you sit down and really think about it, I'm like, I don't think I should be watching this. I really don't think they should be mainstreaming this, because if you just change, the college girl, I forget her name, to a college boy, then it becomes suddenly really, really creepy, right? Just because it's a girl, it's funny? Not really. I mean, it's still creepy. So I was done.
It's actually kind of funny how you're talking about the creepiness of it, because they kind of do this. Spoilers for anyone who might want to watch this. Yeah, right. But they do this kind of thing to show how creepy she really is when she has her own stalker, Mayane. She finds out that she's had a stalker for 2 years, and she's doing the exact same thing she's been doing to the little girl. And she's like, "Oh my god, is this how I really am?" So it was kind of funny that she kind of got this realization, and kind of her comeuppance, and like, this is what you've been doing to me all this time. But then when it goes to the girl again, she kind of forgets about it and just goes back to her old self.
Mm.
But there's just some moments in that show that just make me just bust up laughing, like everything. And it has a lot to do with the sisters' interactions. Like, one day she's sitting there and she gets her phone beeping and it tells her that's her birthday, and the little girl freaks out. She's like, "Oh my god, I forgot her birthday. No, this is so terrible. If I don't remember her birthday, no one's gonna remember." Because it's just showing how secluded she is, that she has no friends, type of thing. It was just so hilarious how she says these things not meaning to be mean, but they come out hurting the sister really bad, and it's just hilarious to me. But
I'm not disagreeing with the hilarity. I mean, the comedy and the timing and all that. It's just in episode 1, there's some truly hilarious moments, including like the mom tying her up and beating her, right, for spoiling dinner by feeding the girl sweets, or the ending where she's cosplaying and the neighbor girl moves in and has watched her entire magical girl transformation act. I mean, it is funny, but that wasn't enough. After watching Uzumade, I was like, okay, I don't need another one of these. So
I feel sorry for people who watch that. They should have watched this when it's dead.
Yeah, Dolga Kobo has been on kind of a roll lately. But would you watch one of these, but with a lowly fox girl and a Sekiri man named Nakano, first name probably Albert?
God damn it.
I think that is the next great anime from Dolga Kobo.
Yeah. That's coming right up next season, I believe.
It's coming right up.
Likes to go hiking in the mountains.
Yeah. So
yeah, I'm looking forward to the skiing episode.
Yeah, that would totally replace the beach episode.
It would be a skiing / onsen.
Right.
Nice.
There you go.
That sounds
nice
deluxe.
Nice recover.
So let's go ahead and move on to the next title. if no one else wants to sing praise about this great show. What is this? Oh,
What do you mean? You put it down.
no, I was trying to change it. I
What is this
forgot
garbage?
it was my picture. Maria Friends, there it is. Or
Yeah.
Manadia Friends.
Yeah.
So it was pointing to me that this was a short, and I was like, what? It's a short? And then I checked on Crunchyroll, and it has a runtime of 14 minutes. So
It's a short.
it is a short, so I didn't notice that at the beginning. And to make it worse, it actually seems that the first maybe 9 minutes are the actual show, and then they have ending credits, and then then they add a whole nother anime, like 2 minute or 1 minute and a half section at the end of the show. So it's like, yay, we finished the show. Here's a little extra. And the other thing about it that I actually thought was pretty fun too was that the ending credits, every single one changes, and it has like a slideshow of either what happens after the event or maybe what happened in the background during the events of whatever transpired during that episode. So even the ending credits was somewhat enjoyable to watch, but it wasn't like anything super big. It was probably about anywhere from 5 to 7 frames they maybe have added. So, but most of the time was kind of like it would show them doing what they were doing, and then you would see the background where the bodyguard was, and you're like, oh, that's where he's been the whole time. Kind of like he was always been there watching. But as I was watching this show, I was really curious, like, what kind of show is this? What do I classify it as? Is it a slice of life? Which it is, but I also kind of thought maybe it was trying to hit like a healing type of anime because of the music they played and a lot of the scenes.
Little bit.
Maybe it's an advertisement for a certain mobile game.
No, it's been like passed. Like I said, that one. I don't know if they're gonna have like a round 2, but if you remember from the preview thing, it was like one of those event quest segments in the main Rage of Bahamut app, or Shingeki no Bahamut, whatever it was, and that app has left our app store like years ago, so I don't even know if we ever had the event or not. But I do know they have one of their company encompassing card games where the characters take up like a magic attribute class. So like that's your only exposure to these characters in the American market at this point. And maybe even in the Japanese, unless you had the characters from the event. But
yeah, but like I was saying, it seemed to me like some of the scenes were trying to go for this healing effect.
I'd say a little like fan service Moe Blob at times too.
And while I don't know, it was enjoyable, but it was it's hard to place like what was enjoyable about it. And it's short enough that you can just easily watch the episodes and not feel that you wasted too much time. But it's not like a show also I could recommend because it's hard to kind of, like I said, it's hard to put my finger on like who do you recommend this, who would want to watch this, and who they're trying to target. If it was just for people who played or had kind of influences from the games or anything like that, or if it's for them, or if it's just showcasing the slice of life of these two princesses.
Yeah, I think it really missed our market for that reason. I do imagine it to be bigger, but still not important enough in Japan because, lots of people play mobile games. Whereas since we were abstracted from that, it doesn't make as much sense in our own market, but we're still probably going to get it somewhere. But yeah, like with the absence of the corresponding mobile game, like why would you recommend this to like anime fans is kind of where you're coming from, I think.
Yeah, but overall, there were some episodes I really enjoyed, so I can't say it was bad, but some of the action scenes that they did have were kind of interesting, but it didn't have that really big impact to me. What about you, Nick? What do you?
I didn't get through a lot of the episodes yet, which is why I didn't fully highlight it. But from the little bit that I gleaned, I largely agree with what you're saying, but it's kind of hard to say my final piece on the fact that I haven't watched all episodes, like even the majority, I think.
Yeah. And as far as the quality of this show, it seems like they definitely put a lot more into the beginning of it, especially the first 2 episodes, and then the rest of it was kind of okay. There was a few scenes near the end that I was like, ugh, that was terrible. Especially during this like play where this girl was singing. It just looked so off with how her mouth was and how the music was coming on. And even at the very, very end, there's a scene with this horse walking where they use CG just for a quick moment. And you're like, whoa, that looks terrible. But other than that, it played out pretty nice, and it's definitely had a nice, soothing soundtrack, if anything. And I may want to try to pick up the soundtrack because it did give a relaxing feel when you listen to it. And yeah, just I think I liked Grea, which was the dragon girl.
Mhm.
I liked her a lot more when she had longer hair, but it always bugged me with how her wings were always looked like they were tattered.
Her tail doesn't bother you?
No, no.
That giant Kobayashi-san, made dragon type tail.
Yeah, he's
It's as
used to
big
it.
as her leg.
Yeah, that wasn't bad at all, actually.
Chat asks, who makes open-ended library? I don't know what that means. Maybe it makes sense to you.
I don't know. I don't know what that means. The library was really strange. It was really big and open, and it even had this weird moments where I think in one of the episodes when she was sick, I think it was the second episode, that they go through all these weird doors and portals, and somehow they teleported back into the library. I don't know, just really weird how some of this show worked. But
Magic.
yeah. But that other princess, the one that was really powerful magic.
Oh, library is open to the outside.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like those books would not last very long. Just exposed to the elements.
Yeah. They even had like a water walkway out there too, kind of like surrounding it. But the other thing that, like I said, I thought she was interesting and okay, but when I got to that last episode, I finally realized how creepy she was. Cause
but you think that other show is fine?
dude, she like has like this thing I think, which was when she shedded. So that she had like the skin and she was sniffing it. She's like, oh, her smell. I'm going back. I was like, what? That was just so strange to me because there was nothing like that. I mean, you could tell throughout the series she got jealous. They were always hanging out, and there's just certain scenes where you could tell that she wanted to be best friends. But that episode finally made me go, whoa, she's kind of creepy. But everything else between there was okay.
Yeah, like I really don't know, since I don't know the source event or if they had a secondary one, like if that was even like what the event was thinly veiled with. Like I don't know if that's literally characterization that was made just for this show, or if it also existed in the as source as it can be material. But the two always had like a strong bond. That's pretty much like clear in a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So, I don't know if I can recommend it, but if you want to see something interesting, I think who was it that we used to hang out with? What was it? Chris Dorsey,
Sure.
Oh, yeah, Chris Drost.
Dross or something like that. He wasn't he the one that liked the characters when they were putting on the stockings. So they do have that in there. I
I
remember.
don't really keep track.
I remember one of the group fans had this whole thing with stockings.
It was probably Nathan G.
Yeah, we'll bring Nathan G into it. I just remember someone like, oh my god, she's putting on the stockings. Look how they did it. It's so good. So they have that.
It could have been Tripley because he also liked the wedding dress stuff.
Yeah, so what else was there? Next in the show. Okay, our next title. Yeah, so oh, if anything, this show also came with some end card images, so those are pretty fun to watch.
Yeah. I always like illustrations in an anime. That's like a reason for me to watch the show sometimes.
Yeah. And Inoue Kikuko, one of the super famous voice actors from way back in the day till today, is in this one too. She's in a lot of shows. Where is this title? Oh, there it is. Love is War, Kaguya. But in Japanese, it's Kaguya-sama wa Kokurasetai Tensai Tachi no Renai Zokusen or Zonusen? Zuno-sen? Zuno? I don't know. This was the only show I think I actually watched every week. And I started picking up the manga and realized there's a lot more to each of their little competitions.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here.
So did you watch all 12 episodes then?
Yes, I did. And the ending was actually, I really enjoyed it. It was really fun.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job wrapping it up.
Yeah.
Especially since the manga isn't complete. So I was wondering how they were going to go, whether they were going to do the anime original or if they were going to, leave it open for a second season or what. And they did a nice wrap up. So
yeah, they wrapped it up in a way it can go either way. They could add more if they wanted, or it could just be its own thing. I know that special animation that they did, and I think it was episode 3 with the girl dancing, that only showed up once, while everything else was pretty much the same.
Yeah, pretty much. I think there was no ED on the episode 1, and episode 12 had a different, the song played over the animation with flashback scenes. So it has probably the best OP of the season. Fantastic song, Love Dramatic, with also the Sakuga, is super trippy. It's like you're looking through a kaleidoscope. So you see the image here. I really enjoyed it. It's one of the few songs I did not skip. Like every time I would watch the entire thing. So definitely great. The animation remained high, very well done throughout. I think everyone is talking about how they like all the different characters and kind of a unique take on this romantic comedy. But I found actually the narrator to be indispensable. Just the way he overly dramatically talks about what Kaguya and Shirogane are attempting, or his narration. I thought that was a highlight for me. So I really enjoyed that. Nice character designs. Animation we already talked about, but the episode 3 ending Do I have one? Yeah, the Chica dance, right? It blew up all over the place. And if you go to YouTube and type that in, you will see like, I swear there's 20 or 30 people cosplaying and dancing as Chica. So, and none of them are quite as good. So I'm really curious to see the actual original rotoscope, dancer.
Yeah, I would love to see that too.
Yeah.
If they include that on the Blu-ray, that would be nice. But it'll probably be on the Japanese Blu-ray and not for us.
So I think you can find on YouTube like a side-by-side comparison of the frames that they drew with the video playing.
I know that was up for a short while on Twitter, and it linked to a YouTube one, but I don't know if it's still up. Probably someone already copied it, but you see the frame by frame of it, but you don't actually see the original person dancing. So that's kind of what I actually want to see too, because they captured it remarkably well. Like, it's just amazing what they did.
So when it came to the manga, I just barely started trying to pick it up and realized that there was a lot more content than what the show let on, especially like at the beginning. I think they had the same moment where she was giving them the tickets and then they had that battle. But when you read the manga, it actually went further, like to the next part, like them trying to force the tickets onto each other again, and then them at the theater trying to figure out how they're going to sit with each other without letting it just kept on going and going until you got to the next little story that they did in the anime. So it was kind of interesting to see more of that content. So I think that's actually really fun in itself, because it's like the anime gives you some of the story arcs and some of the battles that happen, but then you can go to the manga and get a little more. And I think it's a nice little touch, because it's not like you're missing out a lot, because you still enjoy everything that's going on in the show, but you get that little extra if you do decide to go pick up the manga. You're just not rehashing everything all over again.
Okay. So it sounds like they did a nice job adapting it, cutting out where it wasn't necessary and trying to cover as many different episodes, right? Because each episode had about three small episodes, right? Three story arcs. So, yeah, and this is top 3 for me this season, just because it was so enjoyable, and a slightly different take on the tired old, romantic comedy routine. So I would highly recommend it. They did some interesting things with the animation too. I think it's worth checking out. I know that I just got noticed that Sakugabor had put out another article on the second half of the season. So, Sean, you might want to go check it out. I haven't read it yet, but
I have only seen the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember at the time I was like, does this come from like an ex-Shaft director? Because like so many of the visual trappings look shafty, and the answer to that question is yes.
Yes.
But I didn't continue on with it because usually I don't watch comedies, and also this seemed to have a certain premise that it would sort of run into the ground, and I wasn't really into it. I mean, does it do that? I mean, not in the negative sense, but just like, does it stick with its shtick, or does it go places? Do things happen, or is it just kind of resets every episode? And it's like, okay, we're gonna have another comedy scenario based on this premise, which has been the same.
I would say no, because there actually has been change over the course of the season, and it covers like one semester of school, right? Japanese schools are 3 semesters, I guess it's a trimester, but it covers one trimester. And there is character change and growth within that. The battles between the two is ridiculous, but what happens previous that can affect later episodes. So it's not a complete reset in that sense. There are some reveals that happen later on that you view things differently. But yeah, it was mainly for fun, and the visuals were fun for me, at least. I don't know if that alone will tie you over. If you're not a fan of the genre itself, then it might not be. But
Yeah, I probably won't watch it. I was just curious, like, whether my suspicions were correct or not. In terms of it sort of being a dedicated comedy with this premise, and then, or does the premise change over time?
No, it's always the battle between the two.
Okay.
While the outcome changes, it's never a win or lose outcome. All
Right.
the time. It does have like some like twist endings that can happen because of Chica and the other student. I can't remember his name. The secretary, I think he was.
no, he's the treasurer.
Treasure, yeah.
What was his name?
So,
Ishigami.
Yeah, Ishigami. He does. I don't know. He's kind of a weird one to also say.
Yeah, he's not introduced till like episode 4, So
Yeah. So his outtake on everything is kind of bleak and strange, but it doesn't really focus on him too much. It still always tries to focus on just those Shirogane and Kaguya. I can't even remember her name, and it's in the title. I can't believe that.
Well, because they call each other by their family names, right? So it's Shirogane and Shinomiya.
Yeah, Shinomiya. So, but I think it's enjoyable to me. I don't know. I can't say anything that would push you over. So, but if you watched it, I think and enjoyed it, you would love it to the end, from the beginning. So, but there are some more things that you can learn, like from watching the reading the manga. Like, I don't know if you're supposed to pick it up just by watching the show, because it hinted at a lot of things, but once you read the manga and you do learn a little more, like I never noticed that he always had this mean type of eyes, he always said, but you find out through the manga, and you could probably found out in the anime a little bit later with the hints and notes, but it's because he's always sleep deprived, because he works part-time jobs, and he's always trying to study to get the #1 placement. So his eyes are the way they look because he's sleep deprived and stuff like that. So you can get a little bit of more information through the manga that way. And I think another thing, which I don't think they did until the end with Kaguya, but they didn't really go into the backstories of a lot of the characters either. It was mainly everything that was here and now in the battles. So I think you would have to go to the manga to learn more about their backstories and everything. So for Nick, who hates that type of things, they don't have that in this show. But did you watch this, Nick, or did you?
I'm in the process of. I'm just not current.
So, but not much else to say about it. What about you, Albert? Anything else?
No. It's funny.
Yeah. Unfortunately, like he said, though, even though it does seem to be somewhat episodic, it kind of feels that way. It really isn't, because of a lot of things are pushed by what happened before to
Yeah.
understand the full story. So even though it kind of may have seemed that way at the beginning, it's not. So that's the only thing I have to say about that. But I would say that you could almost start anywhere, and if you like the comedy, you can kind of still enjoy it a little bit without knowing what happened until the end. Let's go ahead and see if we can end this hangout with the last title here. Let's end with the worst.
Woohoo! No, I'm not going to.
Oh,
At its rating level, it's kind of reflected in what he said. It's true.
Handshakers W, right?
Yes, Handshakers W.
I
So
Wait, the title on the sheet is written out as W apostrophe lowercase z.
and
So
it's
I was
pronounced
wondering this whole time if you call that W's
wise.
or was. What is it called? What is this thing
Wise,
called?
like as though you were saying wise,
Okay.
like Y with a Z, or wise man.
Like, why did they make this?
No,
Yeah.
wise though.
So yeah, it's pretty much
It's-
Handshaker season 2. I have watched it all the way through. It was 13 episodes that are all 13 are out. It's
oh my
finished.
God.
It came out today. I got current today.
You showed me some of this. I can't believe you're watching it. It's what I can say about it.
I like Handshakers for whatever reason.
Oh
It's,
my God.
battle royale style thing with the wish granting stuff. But I did want to say, while I'm not going to recommend it for anyone here to go check it out, it's amazing or anything. I did want to point out that this is a season 2, and in my opinion, it did a lot of things right. Not that it's a great show, but the first season really had a strong sense of that amnesia way of telling a story, where they kind of introduced an important motivation to the whole show at the very end, a little bit, but not even anywhere near like how Keimuri Kusa pulled it off, because it was a lot better with Keimuri Kusa than it was with K and Handshakers. But why is Handshaker season 2 has kind of an established cast at this point, and a lot of the cast from season 1 has went on to become adults now who are out of the Battle Royale tournament, with one big caveat to that. We do have a new cast of characters. One is the son of one of the original cast of characters, and they did a lot of cool, well, maybe not cool, but somewhat family bonding and strong family overtones towards the later series when it comes towards the end of the series when it comes to topics like adoption and other stuff. One of the things that I noted in the original precursory talk to the series is I thought he had a copy of the protagonist from the last series, like weird sword thing he did, because in Handshakers he had this gear thing and he can finnick a bunch of gears into like a sword. And
Okay,
it looked a lot like,
wait, you showed me that.
yes,
And
yes,
it was the dumbest looking thing I've ever seen. It looked
yes,
like
yes.
a man with like a giant Final Fantasy sword, but with a
Yep.
bunch of like CDRs kind of like affixed
Yeah,
to
the
it.
protagonist of this show had the exact same kind of a sword, just instead of mini gears, like mini like silverback CDs.
Okay, so I wasn't imagining or dreaming this in a nightmare.
No.
That is a real anime that you showed me, and that man really had that sword.
Yep.
So, like, how much of K Project have you seen?
All.
Oh, holy shit. Well, that's more than me. And there's a whole lot of K Project. And this is also a Gohan's original. And this is like Gohan's squared,
Yeah.
where K Project was like pretty dumb and like gaudy. This is extremely dumb and extremely gaudy. And like there were, you showed me like bit of it where some kid got on like the famous bridge in Osaka, you know, with the Running Man and all that over the water, and he whipped out this like DJ deck and started spinning these beats, and this is where my memory is kind of foggy, but then I think some like cool graphics started happening around him. And at the time I was like, all right, this is kind of okay. Yeah. And then you skim to another episode, and I saw that man with like the CDR sword, and I'm like, no, this is horrible.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to show, like the combat, because that's what I was going to say. In Handshaker Season 1, they always pulled off an interesting effect with what they called the ziggurat, or the flip dimension that mimics Earth, and you do combat in there with like time seemingly frozen for the populace that's not affected. But that was really changed up here. They brought out that ziggurat only a few times, and a lot of times when they transitioned into that other dimension battle realm, it wasn't too different from the current world, where it didn't have all those graphics going off at all times. And to me, that was just perhaps more of a production struggle, because in the original season, as characters gained power by winning fights, the ziggurat, as it was called, would theme the battlefield to their favor, and attributes that coincided with whatever their Nimrod, as it's horribly called, but your special gimmicky sword and special gimmicky powers, it would just theme the battlefield in your favor the more powerful you were, and that wasn't really at play in the second season.
May as well call that the Nimrod,
right? So it was kind of weird in that functional difference between the two, but I really do enjoy the second season a lot better for its not disjointed storytelling and a lot of the tones that it kind of set. And it does help if you know a lot of the prior cast when they start having more of an involvement in the later core. Again, not that I'm recommending it.
I'm kind of surprised that you're saying that it's coherent. So I remember you trying to explain the premise of this thing, and it made no sense to me.
It's more coherent than the first one, but K wasn't coherent either.
Yeah, K wasn't coherent either. Like, if you asked me to explain K, it would be impossible. There was a time when I thought GoHands was a pretty cool studio, and in sort of a weird way, they still are. Because they have like a strong identity and sort of like a strong visual branding for what it's worth, as in just like delirious colors on all corners of the screen at all times. But I don't know. I felt like by the time of K season whatever's or Handshakers, they've kind of jumped the shark. I want to see them do something other than this.
I understand, man. And like I said, I just wanted to give it an honest shout out for what I enjoy about it, because it is a series that it's like almost like a guilty pleasure, right? It's not good, but it does things that you like anyway. And
yeah, and K had that attitude too, where it's just like, it doesn't need to make sense really, as long as it's cool. Like that was the attitude. That was the sense that I got from K.
Style over substance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like kind of 80s in a way.
But the funny thing here is I do actually, maybe not so much in the first season, but I did enjoy the substance of the show, because I know you're not going to check out the premise, but just to kind of, tell you all what the point of it is when handshakers become powerful enough to meet God, they have a wish granted. And it kind of turns out that while the wish is not necessarily granted in a monkey's paw logic kind of way, when a lot of people had their wish granted, they become jaded by having their wish granted. And you saw how their wish affected through 3 respective parties in the later half of this show. And the main protagonist of the show is one of those characters that never really had a wish, yet he was having to do the combat because he was kind of an exception character who, can normally in Handshakers, you operated as a pair, and when you held hands with your other pair, you entered the ziggurat if another team was nearby. You fought, the loser lost their powers, and they had to get their wish the hard way. The winners had a chance to, have their, in almost a, what was that card battle show that had a similar premise that was like Maria Okada. I forget, but anyway.
Wicross.
Yeah, Wicross. Yeah. So a lot of people ended up jaded by their wishes, and in this, the protagonist, and it is revealed that he is actually the son of one of the characters who is trapped in the ziggurat from the first series, and they don't do a final fight to meet God another time. They do something else instead, and his wish is basically to undo, if they so wished for, or maybe it wasn't if they so wished for. I think he like undid everybody's wishes to try to just anti-Jade them, but it was kind of cool. Like it had a lot more going on than the first season ever tried to achieve. I liked the reappearance of characters who are much older and have moved on as they were kind of brought back into this a second time, even though they were supposed to be out. It just pulled off a lot of nice things that I really enjoyed. And while I do like the first season, a Steins Gate effect here, I like the second one even more, but I do still at least enjoy the first one somewhat. And that's wise.
All right. Were you done, Nick? I kind of DC'd.
No, yeah, for the most part.
All right. Well, I guess that would be it for our hangout. Let me just. We went through these titles. If you can see it. Oh wait, how do I point that way? Right there. We cross, or sorry, Wise. It's at the very bottom. They're cut off. But if you want to join us, I think we're still a little bit on Google Plus for the next episode. Or I don't know if it'll be closed by then.
Yeah, it's dying April 2nd, and that's like in a few days.
Yeah, so I'm posting it to our Discord. If you want to join that, comment, I guess, on this video. And or we also have Me thing out there. It's constantly being removed because we don't put too much info on there. But I am sharing when we're going to be holding our hangouts. But other than that, it's been fun on Google Plus. I don't know much to say. It's nice that I got to meet all of you through that. But we'll see how we go with the next social media we've all decided to join. Any of you all have anything to say?
Nope.
Yeah, it's kind of just hitting me right now. Like, wow, it's really an end of an era.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed.
I'm going to miss you guys. I actually haven't been on Google Plus in forever. But yeah, once I heard the end, I stopped.
Yeah, it's definitely out with a whimper instead of a bang. It's like everyone knew G Plus was like a dead man walking for like the past 3 years.
Yeah. So I think next week we'll cover the rest of the titles. We still have a lot of there, like Real Girl, Shield Hero, Slime, Enduro. Data Life 3. They got a crossover with the Danmachi mobile game going on right now. That's kind of cool, I thought. That they're kind of keeping current like that. So we still got quite a few titles out there to talk about for next week. Send me a message if you want to join us. I will need your email, though, because I think that's how I'm going to have to start sending the invites. We'll see how that works after Google's gone. Other than that, bye, B, right?
Yeah. Well, like the weird thing, I know you're trying to end it, but since Google is facilitated through Hangouts, like if you ever had a Google account, Gmail, Android, whatever, even though you can keep track of some people through email, Hangouts isn't going away. So if you became a part of Hangouts, like that will still function as it's always been. So even just getting on Hangouts, and if you were already on it, great. And if you're not on it yet, if you get there, that's how you find out about this stuff, really.
Yeah, I hope they keep it around because, like, even right now they're changing YouTube layout, and they have this new beta thing going on, which I couldn't figure out how to get to this Hangout, so I had to go to the Classic and go through all these weird things just to get this. I'm actually happy I tried it out last week because I was like spending hours just trying to figure it out. So
I don't know if they'll always do like on-air hangouts to YouTube, and we might just have to like not do it through Hangouts and do a more traditional method. But like I imagine Google will, in some form, always have a phone messaging app like that's supposed to work on data. So even if it's not the Hangouts, it's something else. But yeah, Hangouts on air could probably die at some point too.
Yeah, if anything, we could just do a Discord hangout and then do a video or voice chat there, and then I could fit video later.
Yeah, like there's like ways to like live stream to YouTube through like open broadcasting software.
Yeah, you just use the normal streamer stuff.
Yeah.
But other than that, bye everyone, right?
I don't know why I'm mirroring you.
See you later.
I've done that.